Well, this is certainly interesting because it certainly looks like that Michael Gove and Rishi Sunak will be feeling the burn, as it's become to be known, of whenever the greater mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, has got, shall we say, one up on the government. It's, well, the Conservatives are feeling the burn. And to be honest, I've said this before. I think Andy Burnham's future, I don't think he might go on longer than this current term as Manchester's mayor. I think this might be his last term, because I think his plan is to go from being Manchester's mayor, which has done an absolutely outstanding job, and now go into what would be probably a Labour government sitting on probably their front benches. And not only be that, but be someone who would be seen probably almost immediately as Keir Starmer's successor, the man who is going to take over him. And that would cause some very interesting, power dynamics, etc. in play. But also, Burnham would have to then prove that all these successes that he's had as sort of London mayor, he can now replicate as a cabinet minister. That's what he would have to do. He would have to be able to prove that if he was to really sort of secure himself into sort of the successor position. But what are we talking about today? After all, how has Michael Gove been able to, sort of, quote, feel the burn? Well, you may remember late in 2021, I believe it was, there was the infamous Levelling Up white paper published by Michael Gove and his Department for Levelling Up. This paper essentially promised that the regions would be able to have more power. They'd be able to have more say about how their money is spent. And at the moment, we are one of the most centralized, certainly, governments in Europe. We are incredibly centralized. And you have seen over the past couple of years, even though we've had these devolution deals, it's sort of, there has been a mayor, but they've been able to do very, very little, and being able to even make less decisions than certainly the government has been claiming and crowing about how amazing sort of devolution is. But there's obviously a reason behind that as well, because when you look at all these greater sort of city regional mayors, well, all of them are Labour. And they've all gone and done fantastic things in their city region. Andy Burnham being the sort of the prime example of a London sort of, not London, but a Labour mayor who has done fantastic things in his position, being sort of a big sort of push and driver for lots of things happening in Manchester. And it looks like slowly over the time, certainly under Johnson, under Truss, and then Rishi Sunak, they have been going under constant negotiations to try and get more powers devolved from Westminster to essentially the mayor's office. And this has been, by all the sounds of it, has been an absolutely fantastic success. And what was also kind of funny as well is that Gove, when they were apparently talking about this, one of the things that Gove sort of tried to make Burnham agree to, that if HS2 was going to go up to Manchester and sort of into Piccadilly, that Manchester should then have to pay, which, bear in mind, no other town or city region or anyone like that has been offered to say, well, if you want HS2, you're going to have to pay for it. Now, that deal was eventually dropped, but it did go to show you that these negotiations were very, 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 very tight, and went on, like I say, they've been going on since sort of Boris Johnson late last year, through the very midpoints of Liz Truss, right through into sort of Rishi Sunak's time recently. So these concessions that Burnham has got is very, very good, because ultimately these will probably then go to, well, the other sort of regional mayors in the area. And as I said, the Tories, as much as they like to talk about devolution and how good it is, they really don't like it because, as we've said, most of these positions are Labour. The only one they have, the only one, is Ben Houchen, being sort of the Tees Valley regional mayor. And to be honest, his re-election campaign, I don't think he's going to have a lot to say because he has staked his entire mayoral run on the fact that he can get this Freeport up and running. And of course, Rishi Sunak immediately went and said, "Here's your Freeport." Well, if you've been following along there's been delays constantly. By the looks of it, a absolute environmental disaster with in the killings of potential thousands of shellfish and all sorts of sea life, sort of in the estuaries that they've been seeing, because most of the where they're building this place was an old coking plant, so they're essentially in the sort of the process of trying to build this new Freeport. They're moving all the soil and all of this and all the old sort of coking chemicals that are in there are sort of now repolluting the river. It's causing a bit of an environmental mess, as much as they've tried to sort of downplay this. But you can see with your plain eyes, something is going on. And does seem to be a bit of a cover up. But then he's got even a bigger problem in the fact that he is running out of money for his Freeport. There is big concerns that soon Ben Houchen is either going to have to go cap in hand to the government and say, "I need more money to build this Freeport because, I've staked my entire mayoral campaign on getting this Freeport up and running and showing the benefits," which again, we've talked about the benefits of Freeports. There aren't really a lot to talk about. They're not really that good. There is a reason why David Cameron closed the last Freeport in the UK because, well, they're not really that good when it comes down to it when you look at the economic benefits. Yet Rishi Sunak also set out the positivities of all these wonderful Freeports and how amazing they are, and also very worryingly, some seemingly to try and be setting up as charter cities. And we've talked about the worry about that if that decided to happen and be rolled out. And needless to say, yeah, it's interesting should they ever get to that point. But this new deal, to be honest, I think is a win for Greater Manchester, and it will give now Andy Burnham more powers in able to sort of go forward and be able to use these powers for the benefit of Greater Manchester, especially in around the area of transport. This is why Gove, I think, tried to make this demand. Oh, you want to improve transport, do you? Well, guess what? You're going to have to pay for your section of HS2. And of course, that was dropped, but hey, this is part of the whole thing, and I really want HS2 to be built because it really, really needs. We need this type of infrastructure desperately. Of course, this will only bring big economic benefits. Will also massively improve local rail service because, like I say, you'll get all the high-speed trains moving from local tracks onto HS2, so that frees up more capacity, so you can have more local trains. The benefits of HS2 are massive. Massive. And people who say, "Oh, but what about the environmental claims?" Well, the entire running of HS2, its building and running, is basically amounts to a year's worth of motorway transport for the entirety of the UK. That's it. That will be its environmental impact. It's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. But as always, like I say, something to celebrate. And like I say, I do hope that the other regional mayors do start to sort of go, "Hey, Gove, you promised all this levelling up, all these extra stuff. Well, yeah, can we have that as well? Because Manchester's just got theirs." We'll see what happens, see if any of these future devolution deals start coming forward. Although I do think that they are going to be very, very hesitant to, shall we say, hand out more devolution deals. But we'll see. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, please remember to click on that like, share, and subscribe. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.